Segment 2, Gold and Black Live, Tom Dienhart, and joined by local hero, but he's a Boilermaker hero from now to the end of time after the Boilermakers got that win in Nashville in the Music City Bowl. But it's been a 6-year career. He'll be 25 on Sunday, but he's still young. And I mean, do you ever look back, Jackson, in this opportunity, and now that it's finally over, but it's been an unbelievable ride for you and your role in the history of Purdue football?
Yeah, I mean, it's a blessing, to have this opportunity and to come from a family that's, they bleed gold and black. Not too many people get that opportunity. So just being able to be here and be with you guys and kind of finish it all off, it kind of hasn't quite set in yet, but at the same time, I've had a little bit of time to look back, and it really is unbelievable from where we started back in 2016, and that my first summer, just looking around and being like, man, this is crazy. And then sitting here with you guys, it's an unbelievable feeling.
Yeah.
Look at that beautiful head of hair, man.
That's good.
I was always jealous of Jackson, the whole family, man. I tell you what, the first family of Purdue Athletics, Jackson, I was always thrilled to see you do well, and Danny too. And boy, we talked to you, it seems like 100 times in the fall. And again, I always marvel, boy, how you just stuck with it, and your perseverance paid off and then some. And it was great to see. What a great final year for you. What a great career, Jackson. I saw earlier today you sent out a tweet and you want to try to pursue professional football. Just sort of tell us what your next step's going to be.
Yeah, next step is just, really just focusing on my body, getting in contact with the right people to put me up in the position that I need to be in. And with myself, I'm born and raised in West Lafayette. So taking these next few steps, that's kind of where I want to be, working with people that have been here the whole life and know me. So I always want to give credit back to them and work with people that love this town and love Purdue and will be able to help me throughout this process. And I'm grateful for that. And I believe we're taking the right steps to do that.
You were recruited by Daryl Hazel, and you gave him credit at an event that I saw. You did a great job talking to John Purdue Club event about giving credit to the guy that recruited you. And yet you come in 17 and you score your first game. I think you get a touchdown reception against Louisville. Seems like for you, it probably seems like decades ago. For us, it seems like yesterday. But that is an amazing an accomplishment. But tell us about that ride. And everybody deals with some level of self-doubt. You have to have some of that, but perseverance also has always been something that you've just absolutely plowed through. Tell us about that road, even in 16, when you had a coaching change, the guy that offered you a scholarship, you had to prove yourself to Jeff Brom. What was that ride like? And looking back through the lens of 2022, back to 2016 and 17, how did that go?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of wild to go back and think about it. And I give so much credit and so much respect to Coach Hazel and also Coach Parker, because throughout the entire process, not too many people were knocking on the door. And, it was frustrating, but at the same time, I just like my dad always says, you got to prove yourself every single day. And I kind of took it, one day at a time. And I remember sitting in the basement when Coach Hazel FaceTimed me and asked me if I wanted to be a Boilermaker. And I basically accepted right then and there when, I almost didn't even tell my parents yet.
Yeah.
But, just looking back on those times and how he gave me a shot, when no one else would, I'm forever grateful for that. And really that first summer, you always think, things are always going to be good and everything's going to run smooth. And I remember getting in the first couple of practices at camp. And I mean, we've got great players. We got Yancey, we got, Dominique Young, we got Posey, we got Bob Marshall. I mean, the room was filled. I'm a guy that just came right out of high school, just got done playing baseball like a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And, I've been playing running back for the last 2 years, so I was stuck in that mode. So it kind of took a little bit to kind of get going as a Big Ten receiver, just to loosen up the body a little bit. And I remember those first couple of practices, everything was just fuzzy. It was like I was just trying to get lined up and run the right route. But it's amazing how over time, you get used to things and everything starts to slow down. In that first year, and it was good for me. It was good for me. I don't know if I would say it was humbling, but you kind of learned a lot. And I kind of figured I'd redshirt just with the talent that we had in the
Yeah.
room. There were also whispers of maybe doing special teams, and it was good because I got to do a lot of that stuff during camp. And, that season was a ride. Didn't end the way that everybody probably wanted to, but then Coach Brom comes in and, everybody's just kind of sitting back, just wondering, what's going to happen. And it's basically got to pretty much redo everything, recruiting almost. You're kind of fighting for your job because, they're going to come in and try to out recruit you. So it's like, man, I just went through this whole process of just getting this one opportunity. And now here comes another one. And, I did my best, showed up every single day, didn't say much, just went to work. And I credit Coach Shep. It was funny. We talked about it the other day. It's like, man, isn't it wild how we first saw each other right outside the doors of Monkoff, and here it's like our last bowl practice.
Yeah.
But, working with those guys in the offense and Coach Brom giving me a chance, especially early, it's something that I'm always going to be thankful for. And that's some of the things that you always appreciate is someone gives you a chance and then you give everything you have for them.
Yeah, you saw a lot of great wide receivers come through those doors, Jackson.
Yeah.
David Bell, Rondell Moore, Milton Wright, Sheffield. I mean, it could have been discouraging for you. I think at one point I asked you this fall if you ever did get discouraged, and I think you did say you certainly did, but you kept fighting, and who ends up being the key or a very big key player, Jackson Anthrop. And again, you talked about being a running back in high school. I thought it was kind of neat that you got a chance to revisit that a little bit this past fall to help really augment that rushing attack for Purdue. And just on that note, Jackson, is there one game or one moment that's always going to resonate with you and maybe be your favorite moment or favorite game as a Boilermaker?
I mean, there's just so many games that you could pick from. I mean, throughout the years, you got Ohio State, that was a huge one, especially with Tyler Trent and everything that went on with that one. And then you got Iowa, Michigan State, and even, you could throw in a couple of the other games with Boston College and those types. Those are undefeated teams that were ranked. But, there is a special one with that bowl game, just how everyone fought. And we were down guys, we had some dudes that weren't feeling 100%. And it was just different. Like we were all just sitting there like, man, we gotta come together. We got to win this thing. I mean, you're down 2 All-Americans, 2 leaders on both sides of the ball. So that's already a challenge in itself. But then even at the wide receiver position, you're missing, Marshawn Rice, Abdur. And I mean, those are key guys that played some big roles throughout the year, especially early on. And just the way that everybody came together and made plays. I mean, if you look up and down the board, you had, Deion Burks made a big play.
Yeah.
TJ made a few big plays. Brock was out of his mind. Payne made big plays. Garrett Miller made big plays. I mean, it was all across the board. It wasn't just one guy, even though I will give so much credit to Brock and the fight that he had, just because, man, he was going through some pain, and you could just see it every time we sat down on the bench. He was not feeling too good, but, we just kept looking at each other and we got, hey, we need each other. We got to go. And these are the last moments that we could spend with one another. So I'd say that bowl game was one for the ages. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know how you can top that as a end of your career, and you made a huge play in that game as well, and among others, and that was a big thing. I look at that. You're back in that situation too, where probably one of my favorite plays of the year, and because it was kind of to me was the statement that Jeff Brom was taking chances and doing things, was your great play against Michigan State and your long touchdown. And you're still running on that play from my perspective. Take us through what the call was in the huddle, and what's it like when and you've had a couple other experience when you're going to have to do something a little bit different in a gadget play. What is that like from that standpoint? Do you just treat it like backyard football and move on, or how is that?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Brom always, emphasizes, having fun out there and changing things up. And really, ever since he got here, we've been practicing many different trick plays. And really, when he calls it, no one really flinches. It's just kind of like, oh, here we go. And then we run and we do it just like we do every single day in practice. We always have a good handful of them going into whatever week it is. But the Michigan State one, we've ran probably 5 times. It just hasn't popped like it usually does. I think we ran it against Illinois,
Right.
In that rain game. That was unbelievable. And I think we got like a good 40 yards out of it. Yeah, it's kind of funny. There's some plays where Aiden will call it in the huddle and everybody just kind of like look at each other and be like, okay.
Yeah.
And then there's sometimes where we kind of know what's coming, but he likes to do it just to keep people on their toes. And, it's fun for the crowd. It's fun for the fans to see that kind of stuff, especially when it works. But yeah, really with Coach Brom, it's just pretty normal.
Yeah. Tom, I'll let you go to the next question, but a quick follow-up. When you come out of the huddle and something's up and you got to be the Cheshire Cat, you got to be completely stoked. You can't tip anything, but you got to have a little bit, your heart's got to race a little differently when you know something cool like this is going to happen on the football field.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you're throwing it,
I know for you
baseball guys.
Yeah.
Being a baseball guy, you're like, well, it's a little different, but I can do it. Every time I think of a play, I think back of the Michigan game.
Yeah.
And I remember we were thinking, we're like, okay, if we're getting man, we're running it. If we're getting zone, we're doing whatever. And they gave us the thumbs up on the sideline. I'm standing there right next to Blau, and I'm like, oh Lordy, here we go. We got it, and the second I caught it, we had Chase Winovich and all those guys were standing in my face. And I was like, oh boy, threw it right to David. I think Bush at the time was their linebacker, and he was flying down the field and made the tackle. And we were like, wow. But those are kind of the moments that come into mind when you think about plays like that. Just your heart races a little bit, but at the same time, you got to execute.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, Jackson, too, give fans, viewers an idea of maybe what the receiving corps could look like next year.
I think they could look really good. And I mean, you have some great leaders in that room, especially with Brock. I mean, I'd assume that he would take full control. I mean, he already had a huge voice in it this year. So, you'd be looking at Brock on the outside, Milton, TJ, Dion, and then hoping to get Abdur and Marshawn healthy. I mean, those are right there. That's a huge piece. And then you add on, the Iowa kid coming in, as well as the Auburn guy. And so that's going to add a little bit more. And, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they can do and see what they can piece together, because they're going to make plays all over the field, especially with Aiden.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that leadership quotient, because that's the one thing that seemed to me to be very evident. Obviously, you had a role as being the old guy on the team, so to speak, one of them. But leadership and what that took to have guys in the locker room, it can't always come from the coaching staff, obviously. But what did you learn from that experience in terms of, 2019 and 2020 didn't go right for anybody on the whole earth, so to speak. Right. But it didn't go as you guys expected. But what turned that part around where you said, this is where we need to be, and this is who we are, and this is how we're going to lead this football team?
Yeah. I give a lot of credit to, the guys that were seniors when Coach Brom first came in, Juwan Bentley, Danny Zichuku, Garrett Hudson, guys like that. As a leader, I'm not one to always speak up right away. And especially when I'm younger, I like to sit back and watch guys. I lead by action early on. And then as time went on, those leadership did lack a little bit in those years in between. But this year, there were leaders all over the field. I mean, it didn't matter. We had 3 guys get hurt, and there'd still be what seemed to be like 2 captains on each side of the ball. And that was something that really helped. And I just think the bond that we had was as close as I've ever been with a football team. Really? If you look on our side of the ball, I mean, Jack Plummer was a great leader. Aiden was a great leader. You had Tyler Witt that came in, was a great leader. Payne, even David wasn't someone that would speak a whole lot, but when he spoke, everybody listened, and he'd go out there and have a 200-yard game. So David did what David did. And then on the defensive side, I mean, you had George, he's a hometown guy too. And that, he wants to win as bad as anyone. So there's that. You got Cam Allen on the backside, and Jalen Alexander did a good job leading those guys as well. And really everyone knew what they were supposed to do, and everyone wanted to win, and it didn't matter who had the success. And I think that played a huge role in how everybody led.
All right, Tom, time for one more. Fire away.
All right, once and for all, we had this debate one other time. Jackson, who's the greatest Anthrop ever at Purdue?
Oh man. Well, I'll leave that to everybody else to decide, but I know that sparked a nice little conversation, I think, at the beginning of the year.
That was Jamarcus. Let's blame Jamarcus Shepard. All right.
That is true. Yeah, we'll put it on him. But he said it. He said it, not me.
It's been a lot of fun, you know, between your dad. I was a young kid when your dad played hoops, and of course your brother Drew, and then Danny, and now you. And I know your mom was a great athlete. Your Aunt Julie was a good athlete, and her brother, your mom's brother, was a great athlete too, from what I've heard. So there's a lot of that great blood running through that family lineage there.
Yeah, don't forget Jade. Jade's out there too.
Jade. Yeah, Jade.
He was a good one. But I don't know. All I want to do, I want you guys in the next. I think that so you guys could have the Anthrop family ping pong tournament could be on national television. And even though NIL's over for you, you can go get all kinds of sponsors. I think that would be must see TV. But I'm still betting on Jana to win that. So
no, I agree. You got to catch it on
and
the wrong.
having played basketball against your dad a few times, he was a quiet, nasty guy out there. So he could play and play well, and he certainly set the table for you guys, to say the least. Well, Jackson, best of luck as you train for your next phase. We have no doubt that it will be a successful one, and I always like to take the time to say also thank you for being gracious. Tom Dienhart's easy to be gracious with, I get, but we appreciate all you've done for Gold and Black over the years, and how accessible you've been to us, and always been great to deal with. So best of luck, and we'll look forward to seeing you around, I'm sure in the Lafayette area for many years to come as your career continues to grow. Okay, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back with another local legend, Tim Newton, and Tom Dienhart will talk a little bit more, break down the end of the 2021 season and what a great finish it was for Purdue. So stay tuned for segment 3 of Gold and Black Live.